In the heart of New Orleans, a city known for its music, mystery, and magic, there stands a mansion cloaked in darkness and secrets. Behind its grand facade, a story of unimaginable cruelty and despair waited to be uncovered. This is the tale of the LaLaurie Mansion, a place where beauty masked horror and the past never truly dies. In the early 1800s, Madame Delphine LaLaurie was one of New Orleans' most admired women, wealthy, refined, and charming. She moved through the city like a queen, her every step watched with envy and respect. Her mansion was the crown jewel of the French Quarter, a grand structure of black iron balconies and tall windows that gleamed in the sunlight. Her parties were the talk of the town. The sound of violins and laughter spilled onto the cobblestone streets. The elite came dressed in their finest clothes, drawn by the allure of fine wine, music, and Delphine's radiant presence. To outsiders, the LaLaurie Mansion was a symbol of prosperity and grace, but no one knew what darkness lurked behind those polished doors. She was the picture of high society, a hostess who knew how to make every guest feel like the center of attention. Her home on Royal Street was more than just a house. It was a stage where she performed the role of a lifetime. The furniture was imported, the art was exquisite, and the food was prepared by the best chefs. People would talk about her gatherings for weeks, dreaming of their next invitation, but there was something about her perfect smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, a coldness that even the warmest New Orleans night couldn't thaw. This perfect illusion, this carefully crafted world of elegance, was built on a foundation of secrets so dark they would eventually stain the city's history forever. Over time, whispers began to spread. At first, they were easy to ignore, dismissed as the jealous mutterings of those who weren't invited to her lavish parties. But the stories persisted, growing more frequent and more disturbing. Neighbors would speak in hushed tones about strange noises coming from the mansion after the parties ended. After the last carriage rolled away and the lights went out, the house wasn't silent. Scratches, muffled cries, and eerie footsteps were said to echo through the empty halls late at night. The sounds were faint, easy to mistake for the wind or the creaking of an old house, but those who lived nearby knew better. Some claimed to see flickering candlelight in the attic, a part of the house that was always kept locked and dark. Despite the rest of the home being brightly lit, others noticed shadows moving behind curtained windows, shadows that never matched any known visitor. The city was alive with gossip, but it was dangerous to speak too loudly. The LaLaurie family was powerful, and Delphine herself was known to have powerful friends. Accusing someone of her stature was unthinkable. So, people whispered in corners and looked the other way, trying to convince themselves that what they heard and saw was just their imagination playing tricks on them. Yet, the rumors only grew, weaving a dark tapestry of fear around the grand mansion. The beautiful facade was beginning to crack. Then, on April 10th, 1834, the unthinkable happened. A fire broke out late one night, roaring through the upper floors of the mansion. Flames licked the sky, painting the streets in a terrifying orange glow. Smoke billowed from the windows, thick and black against the night. Firefighters and neighbors rushed to help, battling the blaze that threatened to consume the entire block. But as they worked, their efforts were met with the chilling sound screams. These weren't the cries of people trapped by the fire. They were different. They came from within the house, from a place untouched by the flames. The cries came from the attic, behind a locked door that refused to budge. As the firefighters fought to break it down, the LaLaurie family stood by, strangely reluctant to let them in. But the screams were undeniable. When rescuers finally broke through the heavy wooden door, they discovered a secret far worse than any fire could destroy. The scene that greeted them was a vision from a nightmare. Inside the dark, windowless attic, enslaved people were found chained, starved, and suffering in silence for years. The conditions were beyond inhumane, a chamber of horrors filled with signs of unimaginable neglect, pain, and despair. The truth of what happened behind the polished doors of the LaLaurie Mansion was finally revealed in a horrifying moment that shook the entire city to its core. The news spread like the fire that had exposed it. Delphine LaLaurie's carefully constructed image shattered in an instant. The elegant hostess, the queen of New Orleans society, became the subject of horror and anger. She was no longer a symbol of grace, but a monster. Crowds gathered outside the mansion, their shock turning to outrage. They shouted for justice, their voices echoing through the French Quarter. The mob grew larger and more furious, and soon they stormed the mansion, destroying the fine furniture and smashing the windows that had once gleamed so brightly. They wanted retribution for the horrors that had been hidden inside, but before the law could act, before she could be held accountable for her crimes, Delphine LaLaurie vanished without a trace. In the chaos of the riot, she slipped away. Some said she fled to France, returning to her family's origins to live out her days in quiet exile. Others whispered darker fates, suggesting she never truly left the city, or that her end was as mysterious as her life was cruel. Whatever the truth, she was gone. The mansion was left empty, gutted by the fire and the mob, a hollow shell of its former glory. But its story was far from over. The real horror was just beginning. Though abandoned, the LaLaurie Mansion never truly fell silent. The family was gone, but something remained. Residents nearby spoke of unexplained sounds that haunted the empty building. Footsteps pacing the halls when no one was inside, doors creaking open on their own, and cold drafts that chilled even the warmest summer nights. Lights were seen flickering in the windows of the vacant house, and shadows seemed to move just beyond the edge of vision, as if someone was still watching from within. Visitors who dared to approach the property reported a heavy feeling of dread, a palpable sense of sorrow and anger that seemed to hang in the air. It felt like a presence was watching them, waiting. Over the years, the mansion passed through many hands, but no owner ever stayed for long. Each one reported strange and terrifying experiences. Furniture would be found rearranged, objects would fly across rooms, and disembodied voices would whisper in the dark. Paranormal investigators who dared to enter captured strange noises on their recorders and eerie images on their cameras. But no one could ever fully explain the source. The mansion had become a house of ghosts, but not just the usual kind. It wasn't the spirit of Delphine LaLaurie that people feared most. It held the memories of pain and cruelty, the echoes of suffering that were absorbed into the very fabric of the building, replaying themselves through time. The walls seemed to remember. It said that the energy of the events that took place there was so intense, it left a permanent scar on the location. Some say if you stand outside on a quiet night, when the sounds of the city die down, you can hear whispers carried on the wind, soft voices begging for justice, or warning the living to stay away. Others report sudden, inexplicable chills, even in the humid New Orleans air, and shadows moving just out of sight in their peripheral vision, as if the past is trying to reach out and make itself known. The stories are countless, passed down from generation to generation. The LaLaurie Mansion became more than just a haunted house. It became a symbol. It's a dark reminder that beneath the most beautiful surface, beneath wealth, power, and high society, an incredible darkness can fester, hidden away, until it finally bursts free. The house stands as a monument to the victims, ensuring that their story is never forgotten. It warns us that the greatest horrors are often the ones we refuse to see, the ones hidden in plain sight, behind a mask of respectability. Generations later, the mansion remains one of the most famous and feared landmarks in New Orleans. Tourists flock to the French Quarter to glimpse its blackened iron balconies, and imagine the stories held within its walls. Historians study its past, trying to piece together the full truth of Delphine LaLaurie's life and her crimes. Ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts visit from all over the world, bringing their equipment and their courage, searching for proof of the supernatural activity that has been reported for nearly 2 centuries. But no matter the curiosity, the mansion keeps its deepest secrets well. It stands silent and imposing, a dark presence on an otherwise vibrant street. The city of New Orleans remembers the pain and injustice that occurred there, and the house itself seems to hold on to those memories like a living thing, refusing to let the world forget. It's a wound that has never fully healed, a dark chapter in the city's history that continues to fascinate and terrify all who learn of it. The story of the LaLaurie Mansion isn't just a ghost story. It's a human story of cruelty and survival, and a powerful tale that refuses to die. If you ever find yourself wandering the historic streets of the French Quarter, and you pass by the infamous LaLaurie Mansion after dark, stop for a moment. Listen carefully. You might hear the faintest whisper, a soft plea from the past, carried on the breeze, because some stories never end. They linger in the shadows, waiting for those brave enough to listen and, perhaps wise enough to turn away. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of America's most haunted homes. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the unknown. Until next time, Stay curious.